afternoon, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Today on Newsfeed at noon, provinces in Luzon grappling with the aftermath of Super Typhoon Pepito. Thousands were evacuated while deaths are recorded in Ilocos Sur and Camarines Norte. Overseas, the Biden administration has reportedly allowed Ukraine to use U.S.-provided weapons in its war against Russia. Leaders of the world's major economies arrive in Brazil for the two-day G20 summit. And the Philippines' very own Chelsea Manalo becomes the first Miss Universe Asia. Thanks for joining us. We begin with the devastation brought by Super Typhoon Pepito, which swept across Luzon over the weekend. This video released by the mayor of Jomalig in Quezon province shows just how powerful it was, with gusts of up to 275 kilometers per hour. In nearby Aurora province, heavy rains and winds knocked down power lines. Governor Reynante Tolentino tells BNC's Weather HQ over 5,000 families or more than 17,000 individuals were evacuated. Pepito made its second landfall in Dipaculao, Aurora on Sunday.
Wala po kaming connection po sa mga ngayon. Baler lang po, Aurora lang po ang mayroon.
The province of Nueva Vizcaya mulls declaring a state of calamity. Disaster officials there say roads, bridges, and flood control structures were heavily damaged after being hit by consecutive storms. Pepito is the sixth typhoon to hit the Philippines in a month. Several homes were also destroyed and some villages remain isolated. Assessment is ongoing on the storm's damage to agriculture. Aside from Pepito, Nueva Vizcaya was also hit by severe tropical storm Christine.
May paunang tulong na po na naibigay ang national government, but we need more assistance. Yung pinaka-kailangan po natin ngayon ay yung tulong sa road clearing operations. If may mga equipment na pwede silang maipahiram or magamit dito. Yung sa mga displaced population natin, kailangan nila ng mga emergency shelter kits, paano i-rebuild yung kanilang bahay, mga materials for rebuilding their houses. Yung long-term na recovery po, it would take some time and it would take a lot of investments kasi.
Over now to Ilocos Sur, where at least one person is dead due to Pepito. Ilocos Sur Governor Jerry Singson also tells BNC's at the forefront over 500 families or more than 1,400 individuals were evacuated. They're now being provided with hot meals and family packs. The governor also laments how Pepito and previous other storms that hit Ilocos Sur have disrupted classes.
Ang kawawa lang dito, ang aming mga mag-aaral. Kasi parating suspension. At nasakripisyo po yung kanilang araw na pag-aaral. Kaya ang DepEd at ang provincial government ay nag-uusap, magkaroon na lang sila ng make-up, yung oras nila, habaan na lang. Hahabaan na lang yung mga oras sa pag-aaral, pagtahimik na yung panahon, para mabawi nila yung nawalang oras nila.
In Baguio City, Cannon Road is totally closed due to a rock slide, but other highways to and from Baguio are open. Torrential rains caused flash floods in several areas, including Session Road. But Mayor Benjamin Magalong says the summer capital was largely spared by Pepito. On BNC's at the forefront, Magalong also said they were ready as preparations began days ahead. These include the evacuation of some 50 families.
All is well in the city of Baguio. Konti lang yung aming soil erosion. Meron kaming slight flooding sa ibang areas pero nag-subsiding kagad.
President Bongbong Marcos says Camarines Norte has also confirmed at least one death due to Pepito. National disaster officials are still assessing the devastation left by the super typhoon as well as from previous cyclones that hit the country. Hannah T. is at the Office of Civil Defense in Camp Aguinaldo. She joins us live for an update. Hannah, go ahead.
My officials say preemptive evacuations have been crucial in minimizing casualties during the storm surge caused by Pepito. In the case of Typhoon Nika, the government's mandatory evacuation was successful, according to the DILG, resulting in 0 casualties. Similar measures were implemented for severe tropical storm Pepito to ensure public safety. The regions most affected by 3 tropical cyclones, Nika, Ophel, and Pepito, are Bicol, Central, and Northern Luzon, where extensive flooding and infrastructure damage have been recorded. Over 695,000 individuals or 204,000 families were preemptively evacuated, according to the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. Many sought shelter in more than 2,700 evacuation centers. The total damage to agriculture caused by the 3 typhoons has now reached more than 8.64 million pesos, while infrastructure losses amount to 469.8 million. The government has provided over 49 million peso worth of assistance to affected families while ensuring access to food, water, and other essentials. Relief efforts are also ongoing as authorities focus on clearing roads, restoring power, and rehabilitating affected areas. In a bit, there will be a media briefing regarding Pepito's effects with representatives present from the Office of the Civil Defense, DSWD, Department of Energy, and Pag-asa. Mai?
Hannah, we all know the weather has improved in the past 18 or 24 hours. Any word on when evacuees can return to their homes?
The threat of storm surges has ceased, but wind-driven waves may still impact low-lying coastal communities, and residents are still advised to take necessary precautions. Region 1 is still on red alert status and has activated the Charlie Emergency Preparedness and Response Protocol, which is the highest level of readiness and resource mobilization because of severe impact of Pepito in the region. Back to you, Mai.
Thank you. Hannah T. there reporting to us live from the OCD in Camp Aguinaldo. The latest now on the track of Pepito. It has weakened into a severe tropical storm over the West Philippine Sea. It was last spotted 270 kilometers west of Batac, Ilocos Norte, packing winds of 110 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 135 kph. Weather Bureau Pag-asa says Pepito will exit the Philippine area of responsibility this afternoon. Meantime, signal number 1 is still up over Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, La Union, as well as the western portions of Pangasinan and Abra. The Biden administration will allow Ukraine to use U.S.-provided weapons to strike deep into Russian territory. For months, Ukraine had asked the U.S. permission to use U.S. missiles. While the White House has so far declined to comment, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky issued this statement.
Today, there's a lot of talk in the media about us receiving permission for respective actions. But strikes are not carried out with words. Such things are not announced. Missiles will speak for themselves. They certainly will. Glory to Ukraine.
The move comes following Russia's deployment of North Korean ground troops to augment its forces, a development that has caused alarm in Washington and Kyiv. It's still unclear if U.S. President-elect Donald Trump will reverse Biden's decision when he takes office. Trump has long criticized the scale of U.S. financial and military support to Ukraine and has vowed to end the war quickly without explaining how. In Brazil, leaders of the world's major economies have begun arriving in Rio de Janeiro for the 2-day G20 summit. At least 26,000 security personnel, including soldiers, were deployed to the Bayside Museum of Modern Art, where the gathering is taking place. Armored vehicles and Navy ships were also sent to guard the venue, while air traffic has been restricted. Authorities are not taking any chances after a failed bomb attack on Brazil's Supreme Court in the capital, Brasilia, on Wednesday. From the climate crisis to regional wars, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres calls on G20 leaders to use their power of leverage to tackle these global issues. Guterres says 2024 will likely be the hottest year in history, and the drought in the Amazon and floods in southern Brazil are just some of the impacts of global warming. Guterres also stresses the need for peace, with conflicts escalating in Ukraine, Gaza, and Sudan.
Peace in Gaza, with an immediate ceasefire, the immediate release of all hostages, and the beginning of an irreversible process towards a two-state solution. Peace in Lebanon, with a ceasefire and meaningful steps towards implementing Security Council resolutions in full. Peace in Ukraine, by following the UN Charter, UN resolutions, and international law. Peace in Sudan, by leaders leaning on the warring parties to end the horrific violence and desperate humanitarian crisis being unleashed on civilians. Everywhere, peace requires actions grounded in the values of the UN Charter, the rule of law, and the principles of sovereignty, political independence, and territorial integrity of states.
We're taking a quick break. Up ahead, Joe Biden becomes the first sitting U.S. president to visit the Amazon rainforest. That and more when Newsfeed at Noon returns. Stay tuned. We're back. You're still watching Newsfeed at Noon. The Marcos administration rolls out a relief caravan in storm-hit Bicol region. Around 750 million pesos worth of assistance will be distributed to 150,000 beneficiaries across the region. Aside from relief goods, financial aid will also be given to those affected by recent storms. ₱1 million is now being offered to anyone who can point to a certain Mary Grace Piatos, a signatory on acknowledgement receipts presented to House lawmakers, which is investigating the budget utilization of Vice President Sara Duterte. Zandro Achona joins us from the Batasang Pambansa for more on this story. Go ahead, Zandro.
Several House members have expressed disappointment over the interview last Friday by Vice President Sara Duterte when she said she will not attend the House Blue Ribbon investigation scheduled on Wednesday, November 20. House Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability Vice Chairman Representative Jefferson Kong-hoon said they wanted to conclude their investigation on the alleged misuse of funds of the Office of the Vice President and the DepEd when she was the secretary. Vice President Duterte's attendance could help them expedite in finishing their committee report. Kong-hoon also announced that the House Blue Ribbon members, together with the House Quadcom members, gathered 1 million pesos as a reward to anyone who can give them information on Mary Grace Piatos, one of the signatories of at least 150 acknowledgement receipts, which also included GP McDonald's, among others. Kong-hoon stressed that these acknowledgement receipts were submitted by the OVP to the Commission on Audit. Kong-hoon said they doubt such a person exists, despite the OVP's claim she is real. Meanwhile, Deputy Majority Leader Francisco Paulo Ortega belied claims by former President Rodrigo Duterte that former Senator Antonio Trillanes is an attack dog of the palace. Ortega said he only met Trillanes for the first time during the Quadcom hearing last week and stressed that Trillanes has always been known as a fiscalizer. Mai.
Thank you, Zandro Achona, reporting to us from the Batasang Pambansa. Joe Biden flagging the dangers of global warming as he becomes the first sitting U.S. president to visit the Amazon rainforest. Biden also toured the Museum of the Amazon, where he met with indigenous leaders who want to protect the rainforest. Biden says he will leave the next American president with a strong climate policy to build from if they choose to do so. But this may be on thin ice, as President-elect Donald Trump has called climate change a hoax.
We all know there's much more we can do and must do at home and abroad. That's why today I issued an official proclamation to support the conservation of nature around the world. Because the fight to protect our planet is literally a fight for humanity, for generations to come. It may be the only existential threat to all our nations and to all humanity that exists.
As Biden visited the Amazon rainforest, Trump watched the Ultimate Fighting Championship heavyweight bout at New York's Madison Square Garden. Trump entered the arena shortly before the start of the main card, accompanied by UFC boss Dana White, a prominent backer during the campaign. Several of Trump's allies were also in attendance, including tech billionaire Elon Musk and Trump's pick for Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. After waving to the chanting crowd, Trump was warmly greeted by UFC broadcast analyst Joe Rogan, who has also endorsed the Republican. Goldman Sachs has upgraded Philippine stocks to overweight. Bloomberg reports the American Investment Bank raised their recommendation after the benchmark stock index closed 1.8% higher Friday, leading gains among Asia's major equity gauges. For the year, Philippine share prices have risen 3.5%. Investopedia says an overweight investment is an asset or industry sector that comprises a higher than normal percentage of a portfolio or an index. An investor might choose to devote a greater portion of that portfolio to a sector that seems particularly promising, or an investor might go overweight on defensive stocks and bonds at a time when prices are volatile. The country's banks can now begin interest rate swap transactions. The Bankers Association of the Philippines has launched an enhanced peso interest rate swap market aimed at improving loan pricing and boosting liquidity. This initiative is supported by 16 market-making banks, including BDO, BPI, Citibank, and JP Morgan Chase. 5 banks will also serve as regular market participants, among which are BDO Private Bank and Maybank Philippines. This move is expected to strengthen local yield curves and improve the pricing of short-term credit instruments. In other news, the Philippines exports its first batch of Hass avocados to Japan. The Agriculture Department calls this a significant milestone in the country's export growth. The agency is also optimistic this will lead to opportunities in other international markets for locally grown Hass avocados. The global market for Hass avocados is projected to reach $18 billion next year. Still to come, another proud moment for Filipinos as our very own Chelsea Manalo becomes the first Miss Universe Asia. Keep it here on Newsfeed at noon. Still watching Newsfeed at noon. Now, she may have missed the top 12, but Miss Universe Philippines 2024 Chelsea Manalo is not going home empty-handed. Manalo was named Miss Universe Asia 2024, one of 4 continental queens in this year's Miss Universe pageant. The others are Nigeria for Africa and Oceania, Finland for Europe and the Middle East, and Peru for the Americas. Denmark took this year's title, besting 124 other candidates during the 3-hour pageant held in Mexico on Sunday.
Hello, maraming salamat. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas. We are making history as Miss Universe Asia.
Over now to Paris, where dinosaurs, primitive birds, and giant sea creatures roar back to life. France's National Museum of Natural History illuminating the animals into giant replicas to highlight the explosion of life 200 million years ago. The sculptures are designed in collaboration with scientists from the Museum of Natural History, while the lights are produced by China Light Festival. The light show is open until January 19 next year.
This actually, we need these kind of things to make us like feel calm, and let's be sure, let's be happy, and spend a good time like this with our family, a good one, good people to us.
Still in Paris, the skeleton of a 70-feet-long dinosaur fetches more than $6 million at an auction over the weekend. An anonymous collector snapped up the vegetarian Apatosaurus, which was dug up in Wyoming in the U.S. in 2018. The skeleton of the giant herbivore is made up of 75 to 80% of the original bones and is roughly 150 million years old. The buyer has pledged to allow it to be displayed in a museum. And before we go, the last supermoon of 2024 dazzles the skies of Venezuela. In Caracas, people gathered at lookouts to enjoy the so-called beaver moon and capture the moment on camera. All full moons in November are called beaver moons. They're believed to be named that way to reflect the increased activities of beavers around this time of year. And those are the news this hour. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Good afternoon.